Silver Bay and the Storm Lighthouse. Where the angry waves of the ocean beat against the grey rocks, lay the town of Silver Bay, a place hard to spot on maps but filled with big hearts. The townspeople spent their days mending fishing nets and listening to the songs of the sea. Rising from the highest point of the town stood the lighthouse, nicknamed the Old Watchman, which never slept and winked at ships in the darkness of the night. Living in this town were 3 close friends who were children of the wind and the sea. Max was like a storm himself. He knew no fear. He would climb the steepest cliffs of the town, racing against the goats, and watch the horizon from the tops of the tallest trees. Courage was his defining trait. Sophie carried an artist's soul. While walking on the beach, she would collect broken sea glass, smooth stones, and seashells that others passed by as trash. "Every broken piece is a jewel in the right light," she would say. Her bag always made a jingling sound with these colorful treasures. Liam was a silent genius who understood the language of machines. His hands were always a bit oily, and his pockets were full of wrenches, screws, and springs. He could fix a broken watch just by listening to its sound and unlock a rusted lock in a single move. One autumn evening, the sky suddenly began to turn purple. As seagulls screamed and looked for a place to hide, the most terrible storm in the history of Silver Bay broke out. The wind was blowing so violently that it was tearing the shutters off the houses. Just then, the town's nightmare became reality. With the roar of a massive lightning strike, the safe light rising from the lighthouse on the hill suddenly went out with a pop. The town was plunged into pitch darkness. However, that night, the town's entire fishing fleet was out at sea, looking for their way back. Without that light, it was only a matter of time before they crashed into the sharp rocks. When Max saw the darkness from his window, he immediately called his friends. "The lighthouse is gone. Our fathers and neighbors are out at sea. We have to do something." The 3 friends put on their yellow raincoats and began to climb the hill, leaning against the wind. The rain stung their faces like needles, and the muddy path made their feet slip. But they never let go of each other's hands. When they reached the lighthouse, they pushed the heavy door open and entered. Inside, the lighthouse keeper, Mr. Thomas, was standing helplessly in front of the giant gear mechanism, holding a kerosene lamp. The old man's face was as pale as a sheet. "Children, it's a disaster," shouted Mr. Thomas, his voice barely audible over the roar of the storm. Lightning jammed the main gear, and the shockwave shattered the main crystal lens into 1,000 pieces. "The motor won't turn, and we have no lens to project the light. The ships will be lost." Liam immediately stepped forward. His eyes scanned the massive metal gears. "I see where it's jammed," he said. He took his large wrench and a special oil can from his backpack. He lay down on the floor to squeeze into the narrow gap between the gears. "I can loosen this gear, but the system is too heavy. Someone needs to pull the manual lever with all their might, or the gear won't spin free." "I'm on it," shouted Maximum. He grabbed the rusty, giant iron lever with both hands. He planted his feet firmly on the ground. When Liam shouted, "Now," from below, Max gathered all the strength inside him and pulled the lever. His veins popped, and he gritted his teeth. "Come on, turn!" With a loud metallic groan, the gears clicked into place with a crack, and began to turn. Liam, smiling with his grease-covered face, said, "The mechanism is fixed. It's spinning." But the tower was still dark. There was no light at the end of the spinning mechanism. The lens was broken. Mr. Thomas shook his head hopelessly. Spinning is useless, we don't have a lens to reach the sea. That was the moment for Sophie. We might not have a real lens, she said in a calm voice, but we can multiply the light. She emptied her bag onto the floor. Blue, green, turquoise, and clear sea glass she had collected for years spilled out. She asked for the powerful emergency flashlight Max had brought. Liam, stabilize the speed of the mechanism. Max, hold the flashlight at exactly this angle, don't move. I will direct the light. Sophie arranged the smoothest and brightest pieces of glass in front of the spinning mechanism like a master mosaic artist. When Max turned on the flashlight and aimed it at the glass, something breathtaking happened. Sophie's glass pieces refracted the single beam from the flashlight, split it, and amplified it thousands of times over. The light passing through the glass turned into a massive, magical beam where blue, green, and white colors danced together. From the top of the lighthouse, a light spread towards the sea, more beautiful than anything seen before, like a rainbow. This light was not an ordinary yellow lighthouse beam, it reflected the souls of the three friends. Out in the open sea, the fishermen fighting the waves saw this colorful light reaching out to them through the darkness. Look, shouted one of the captains. Silver Bay is calling us. The colorful light showed them the safe path through the rocks. When morning came and the storm settled, the harbor was full of safely returned boats. The three friends were sitting on the balcony of the lighthouse, watching the calming sea. They were tired, covered in oil and mud, but their eyes were shining. Liam said, "Machines are useless alone." Max added, "Strength is wasted if you don't know what to hold." Sophie smiled, looking at the last piece of sea glass in her palm, and even the smallest pieces can light up the darkness when combined. From that day on, the Silver Bay Lighthouse continued to shine, not just with electricity, but with the legend of that friendship. Max, Sophie, and Liam had proven to the whole town that even the biggest storms cannot separate hands held tight.